Welcome to New Hampshire Politics with John Burt. I am John Burt. I want to thank you for joining me today. And today, my ratings are going to go up. and the reason they're going to go up is we have the lovely Carla Gerick with us, and she is running for Senate District 20.
That is correct. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, thank you for coming on.
Thanks. I'm delighted to be here.
Yeah, and Senate 20, Senate is New Hampshire Senate. It's Goffstown, Manchester 3, 4, 10, and 11.
That's it. Yep. So Goffstown and Manchester. I live on the west side of Manchester.
You do?
Yep.
So and just a stone throw to Bernardville.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
I come over here all the time, and in fact, I take my dog out on the Goffstown Rail Trail a lot.
Oh,
yeah.
Yes, good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, hopefully it's good down there for you when you're walking on the trail.
Yes, I mean, it's lovely. And now that they restored that bridge, of course, we used to be, I would walk on the west side and then it would have to end, but now we can go all the way to downtown Goffstown.
Yeah. I've never been in the ice arena down there. Have you ever poked your head in?
I have never poked my head in because my dog is scared of the Zamboni machine. So when it hears that clanking noise, she gets a little skittish.
Yeah, she wants out.
Yeah. And I think my ice skating days are over.
Yeah. Now, what made you think to run for the New Hampshire Senate?
I've always been active sort of in politics, maybe more on a community activist side.
Yes.
And I was, honestly kind of unhappy about the lockdown that happened in May. Where the west side, was told to shelter in place for several hours, up to 11 hours.
Wow.
And that happened, a couple of blocks from my house. And I believe in the Constitution. I believe, in the Bill of Rights. I think that people should not be forced by gunpoint to stay in their homes.
Yes, yeah.
Really for any reason. I mean, that's part of why we have, those tricky amendments to the Constitution.
Yes.
So that sort of got me a little excited, and when the opportunity presented itself, Lou has been, Uncle Lou, as everyone likes to call him.
They do.
Has, he's been in for a long time, and I just think it's time for some fresh blood and fresh perspective and voice.
Well, what I tell the voters too is that, everybody says Lou's a nice guy. Well, they say John Burt's a nice guy. But Lou and I don't vote alike.
No.
I mean, we're the complete opposites.
Right.
So if they want me to be more effective, I need you to help me in the Senate.
That, and that's absolutely true. I have a A rating. I'm endorsed by the New Hampshire Liberty Alliance.
Yes, I am too.
And great organization.
Yep.
I really highly recommend that people go take a look at, who's there and who are the people who are really standing for liberty and also for protections of the taxpayers. The economy is not doing that great, and we could all do with a little more money in our pockets.
Yes.
And of course, we're the people who best know how to spend our hard-earned cash.
Absolutely.
So, I'm endorsed by the NHLA, as are you, as you said, and, Lou's rating is a constitutional threat.
Yes. Yeah.
So, nice guy, not a great voting record.
Yes. Yeah. And his big thing is, as I call it, government-controlled gambling.
Right.
I would vote for gambling if the government wasn't involved.
Exactly.
But it's so much involved. They want to add 50 state troopers. They want government control from how they build it to the time they put the last doorknob in. And I'm just not for that.
Well, and we know that monopolies don't work,
Yes.
right? So, I mean, honestly, the way it was structured is basically a gambling monopoly that gives the state control. And, we see it with our liquor stores.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Yes, it's tax-free. It's good, for us as a state. But it's also ridiculous to me that you can't buy whiskey at Hannaford's, if that's, where you are at the time, and
Yes.
that you have to kind of run around and do all these things. So I'm definitely very pro free markets. I think monopolies are bad. I think government monopolies are awful.
Yes. Yeah.
And that, opportunities can be created when we just free things up. So I also would be for gambling if everyone could do it.
Yes.
And, and I think people worry, it would change the flavor, or, these things would pop up everywhere. But that's just really scare stories and scare tactics.
It is.
Because it'll be what the market can bear, right?
Well, those machines aren't cheap.
No.
So you're not going to see them at every Cumberland Farms.
Right.
They're just too expensive.
Yeah, and I think it would be great for tourism.
Yeah.
The state economy relies heavily on tourism. Yeah. And, I could see those beautiful resorts up in the North Country becoming like this James Bond kind of destination where people would go to a beautiful fancy casino, and it would create jobs.
Yeah. Yeah. So, no, they really need to. And to me, it's pro-business if the government stays out of it.
Right. And then, and then of course, someone like Lou voted against legalization of marijuana.
Yes.
I think that was the wrong decision. We know 61% of Granite Staters favor it. I think a lot of people are starting to realize that the war on drugs is a war on people. And if you want to legalize marijuana, it's not like you're saying, oh, everyone should go out and smoke pot. What you're saying is there's so much harm that is happening with these SWAT raids, with, just kids who can't get, college educations because they got a bum rap once, Yeah. So I think that, common sense sort of reform on those kinds of issues are also something, I'll be working on.
Yeah. Well, I voted against the women's prison. I think it's $60 million. Is it that much? Maybe not that much. Well, I can't remember how much. It's a lot of money.
Right.
I voted against it because if you build it, they'll fill it.
Right.
And I just thought, we have a women's prison right here in Goffstown. Yep. If you murder somebody, you need to be in prison.
Yes.
And they say they don't arrest anybody for a joint. Well, they do.
Yes.
There's people in there that smokes marijuana, and they're in there. And I'm going, it's too huge of a cost to the taxpayers to do this.
Absolutely.
And that's what I look at.
And let's, we're asking our law enforcement to do too much.
We are.
There are real crimes out there.
Yes.
Let's focus on those, things where there's an actual victim.
Yeah.
So, real property crimes, burglaries, robberies, physical crimes against the body, those kinds of things. But, if people are just doing consensual behavior at home, I don't think it's the government's business to worry about that,
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I was going to look at Lou's record because I know the governor vetoed it, but this tax cut, and it was 0.25%.
Yes.
Tiny.
And such a battle. And
we got it through, but she's vetoed it in the past, any business cuts, and I think Lou's on that same side.
Yep.
The problem I look at is they do not want to have a favorable business area. Governor Hassan and the Democrats on that side. And I'm for, because once we cut it 0.25%, all of a sudden, an extra $100 million ended up in Concord. Oh, isn't that something?
Right. And I know that it's going to be sort of incrementally cut again and again over the next 3 years. It's a very conservative cut.
It is very.
I'm glad we saw the surplus that we know based on actual, economics.
Yeah.
We're not making this stuff up. These things work. So, you lower taxes, the business owner feels like he's got a little money, maybe he can hire a new person, maybe he can do, new marketing to grow the business. And so I think that's exciting. I signed the AFP pledge, so
you did?
I will
Great.
definitely, I'm not for a state or income tax, of course.
Good.
And wherever I think we can lower taxes and reduce regulations, I think we should try and do that. We should trust ourselves and our friends and neighbors to, exercise personal responsibility.
Yes.
And to, let us spend our money. That's actually the beauty of the free market, and I think people forget that all the time. Is what the free market really is saying you get to vote with your money.
Yes.
For the things you want. So instead of, the government on high saying, we think we know how you can spend your money, you just let people spend their own money.
Yeah. No, that is the problem. But sadly, that extra $100 million didn't go back to the taxpayers.
No.
They spent it as
Is that in the general fund, right? Or?
I think it goes to the general fund.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Governor Hassan couldn't spend it fast enough. It's like, no, why don't we put it in the rainy day fund, which we have very little.
We don't even know how they're spending it because they haven't done the reports. I don't think a report has come out since the start of the year.
Yeah.
And it's supposed to be quarterly to tell us, hey, this is where the money's going, this is what's happening. Let's be accountable.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of accountability and transparency.
Yes.
If I'm elected, I will publicize every vote I take, and I'll explain why. I think it's important to sort of take the mystery out of what we do up at the State House.
Yes.
And to say, well, I voted this way because these are my principles, or these are what my constituents explained to me was important, and then say these are the reasons, and not just have these sort of secret backroom deals.
Oh, and that happens up in Concord, sadly.
Yes.
Sadly.
No one's going to talk to me because I'm going to publicize everything.
Well, that's me up in the New Hampshire State House. So,
yeah, which is
I come on my show
fantastic.
all the time, and I tattle on them up there.
Yeah, and it's not tattling.
No,
we are there to serve our
Yes.
constituents. It's informing.
Well, what was funny is I can't remember what bill it was, but it passed. I voted against it, and it was not pro-taxpayer. And the Republicans and the Democrats, some Republicans, that's how it got passed. I posted the roll call because, of course, I stood right up. Roll call!
Great.
If we're going to pass this, I want the voters to see it.
Yep.
I got 3 messages from Republicans saying, John, you shouldn't put that on your Facebook page. And I said, but it's transparency. I know. One of them wrote back and he says, but it's on the state website. And I said, how does the taxpayer know how to get there?
Right.
They don't make it easy.
No, and not only does it make it easy, but does everything have to be downloadable? Like they don't just make another page. It's like, you download a whole new document every time. That drives me insane.
Yes.
I'll fix that too.
Yes.
Because my background is I came from a technology background. My husband of 22 years is a techie. He works in Boston, so I get questions all the time about the commuter rail. And I'm like, it would honestly improve his life. I love going to Boston for meals and going to a museum and doing some fun stuff. But I still don't think it's fair to tax other people for the luxuries I would like to enjoy in my life.
Yeah.
So, we have, I think it was in Helsinki, they just started up in Norway or Finland, they just started a full program with self-driving buses.
Wow, really?
So it's like we can jump this entire, let's not go back to the railroads. I think we've determined that doesn't really work.
The cost.
Exactly. And the question of property rights, are we going to take it with eminent domain? Are we going to, so I'm like, I would love to see a commuter rail, but I'm not willing to punish other people for it. And maybe we'll just, have self-driving buses.
Yeah, someday we could.
Yeah.
And the interstate's big enough where they could put a rail right down the center.
Yeah.
Or, for the buses,
Right.
the lane, a lane.
Yeah. And these things are in pilot testing all over the world. So it's not
Wow.
even that it's like far down in the future. We could have this sooner than we would ever have.
Now, are we doing it here?
Not yet. Sometimes there's a challenge of bringing people into the 21st century. There was a lot of brouhaha in New Hampshire about Uber.
Yes.
Which of course is, a taxi service that's more peer-to-peer. It works really well. If someone is, there's a storm and maybe you're a little elderly and you want to go to the grocery store or something, and you just can use your app and someone will pick you up at the house and they'll take you and they'll bring you back.
Yeah.
And, but, once again, you have those special interests. And so, taxi drivers weren't that happy because, of course, they're being over-regulated as well. So they have these huge, license fees that they need to pay. So they're like, oh, we don't want this competition. Once again, going back to that sort of free market idea. So I would say, well, let's make the licensing fees for the taxi guys lower, or let's have a disruptive technology where they all go, oh, you know what? I'm going to become an Uber driver too.
Yes. Yeah, get around the regulations.
Right.
Because that's our problem. New Hampshire does have a lot of regulations.
And we need to work on the business climate.
Yeah.
Currently, and I mean, I say it half fondly, but Massachusetts.
Oh yes.
It's better to do business there right
It is,
now.
yeah.
And
Now, how long does it take your husband to get to work in the morning?
he fortunately only has to go in once or twice a week, and they meet up at the bus station at exit 4, and I think it takes like just over an hour. But it's one of those, it's luck of the draw. Some days it's good, some days it's not so good.
Yeah, I can't imagine going there every day.
And I mean, he would prefer to work in New Hampshire for a New Hampshire company.
Yes.
So, here in Manchester, where we have, or not here in Manchester because I'm in Goffstown, but in Manchester, where we have the mill buildings developing and all the tech stuff. And I think it could be really exciting to see more of that development, more startups, innovation. Like let's pump some energy into this economy, and let's really get into the 21st century. So
yeah, no, we need to. And now, once you're a senator, what kind of legislation do you think you'd like to see, pro-business and stuff like that come forward?
Well, I think the business tax cuts was a really good start. Depending on what the makeup of the House and the Senate is, maybe even going back and seeing if there could be a little move that timeline up a little bit more, especially because we did see the positive results we did.
Huge.
Right? So it's sort of proof of concept. Yeah. So that on the business side, looking at licensure, I can never say this word, licensure, whatever, and regulations that have to do with professions. I was talking to a voter the other day, and he's a barber, and he's retired, but he wanted to sort of get back into it, and he had to pay a $50 fee just to complete the paperwork.
Yes.
And it was attached to one certain store, and then he decided he didn't want to work with that store, and that license was untransferable, so he had to pay another $50
Oh, really?
to go somewhere else, and that's like double jeopardy.
Yeah, that is.
So things like that, and then just hearing from people where they feel there's a need. That would be on the business side, and really I think approaching the job I want to do at the State House from a perspective of principled liberty, principled look after the taxpayer first.
Yes.
Not a huge fan of the special interests. So keeping an eye out for that. And then, as I mentioned, I would like to see drug reform policies come through, some criminal justice reform. You guys did a fantastic job
on the health side,
on the asset forfeiture.
Yes.
Just changing the way that worked here took New Hampshire from being one of the worst states, a D-, on asset forfeiture, to one of the best states.
Wow.
But there's one little loophole, and it's all has to do with how the federal money is dealt with. And as a former lawyer, these are the things I like. So I would like to look at those loopholes and see if we can really just close those.
Yes.
Because it's a way to protect us all. Yeah. I think people are genuinely shocked when they learn how this is bloomed into it's a $4.2 billion, and I'm going to use the word industry.
It is.
Currently, where police officers can just take your stuff, never charge you with a crime, either keep it, sell it. The story's out there, and people should not think this does not happen in New Hampshire.
It does happen.
My favorite person to visit, she's no longer my hairdresser, but she had an interesting background because half of her family was law enforcement, and the other half may have been growing illegal plants. And, so she always had the best stories. But she said that, friends of hers got busted, and, they had a Ski-Doo and a ATV and a boat and whatever. And Enfield just came in and was like, we're taking that and that and that,
Yep.
and
There's
they
nothing you
never
can do.
saw it again. So that kind of stuff. As I said, with my legal background, my head tends to go that way, but I want to look out for the taxpayer.
Well, I know one thing that I totally disagree with your opponent is he is 100% for the public education, which I want to support the public education because I think it's necessary that we teach every child that's available. But I also think occasionally there's a little Tommy, a little Susie that needs something different, and we can get that through public schools or charter schools, a trade school. There's little Tommy, he isn't going to be a brain surgeon.
Right.
But he could be really good at welding.
Yes.
And that's a trade school.
Yes, I think more vocational schools, and
Yes.
also just more school choice.
Yes.
And we've seen New Hampshire does pretty well on that. They can start
They
to do
do.
better. But just allowing people really more choice across the spectrum, right? The more people are able to satisfy their personal needs instead of having a middleman or someone telling us, the better. The kids that I read about in Croydon, up in the Upper Valley area.
Yeah.
Five kids were sent to Montessori, and there's been a whole battle with the Department of Education, and people can go read about it on my website,
Yeah.
Carla
Yes.
for
Oh, yes.
nhsenate.com. But the kids who weren't having their needs satisfied in the public school are so happy where they are now, and
Exactly.
they're thriving because kids learn different. I mean, we're all different.
Yes.
And kids equally so, even more so.
Yep.
And some of them think in pictures, some really like numbers, some can't sit still like me. And let's give them the opportunities they actually deserve, and let's make sure kids are getting an actual education.
Yes. Yeah. Because the public schools cannot offer everything. They just can't. But others, little niche
Right.
schools can.
Yes.
And so when little Tommy or Sally, whatever, is she needs something a little different, they can go to those schools. And I'm a huge supporter of that. And I mean, we still need to fund the public schools because that's where the majority of the kids are going. But I hate to see any kid fall through the cracks.
Agreed. Absolutely.
So hopefully with that. Now, is there anything else major that you were thinking that's a good topic? I know that you would like to, help on the education side,
Right.
business.
Yep.
You're very pro-business. Second Amendment, you're very
I
pro.
am endorsed by the NRA,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
I'm a pretty mean shot. So,
Yeah.
so obviously pro-guns, constitutional carry if that comes up again, because
Yes.
that did pass and also got vetoed.
Yeah.
So it's also, I think, extremely important for people to come out, vote down the Republican ticket. Let's make sure we get a governor who's Republican.
Yes. Which
Because
supports what we're talking about.
Exactly, because we have not. We've had a hard slog. You've
Yes.
had a hard
Yes.
slog, sir.
Yes, and it is hard. You work so hard for 2 years to get a bill to the governor, and then she big veto on it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, we'll try again.
Right. And I hope that I am there to help you try, and if there are
Yes.
more of us, maybe we can succeed faster.
Well, that's what I was thinking, and that's what I tell the voters all the time. I say, if you want me to do the best job I can, they have to help me on the Senate and in the governor's office. Send me friends.
Right. And fresh blood, fresh
Yes.
perspective, and just a really a burning desire. I moved to New Hampshire from somewhere else, but I chose to move here, and I love this state, and I love the people, and let's make this robust, amazing place. It's the best state left in America, and
It is.
let's hold on to what made it economically prosperous and a fantastic place to live.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and we have a short video of you coming up. But in order to get a hold of you, if anybody emails you, look on your website and your email's there.
Sure. Yep.
Yeah, and it's Carla, the number 4, nhsenate.com. And Carla, I want to thank you for coming on the show, and we're going to be playing the video that you produced there, and it's a great video.
Thank you.
I think you did a great job.
Thank you.
All right, well, thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, and good luck, because I need you up there.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, and we're going to play the video right now.
Hello, Manchester and Goffstown. My name is Carla Gerick. I'm running for State Senate in District 20, which is Goffstown and Manchester Wards 3, 4, 10, and Ward 11 right here on the west side of Manchester, where I own a home with my husband of 22 years. Since I'm probably new to many of you, I wanted to tell you a little bit about myself. I'm 44 years old. I finished high school when I was 16 and law school when I was 21. For almost a decade, I worked as an attorney in Silicon Valley at Fortune 500 companies like Logitech and Apple Computer. After moving to New Hampshire in 2008, I worked at the New Hampshire Writers Project at Southern New Hampshire University. On top of my law degree, I have a master's in fine arts, and I've been teaching a private writing workshop at my home for many years. I stand for constitutional, limited government. I believe government that governs least governs best. I believe you know how best to use your hard-earned money. As your senator, I will work to reduce taxes and regulations. We need to continue to cut the business taxes to improve our business climate and to create more high-paying jobs. Our mill yards here in Manchester, which I like to call the sideways skyscrapers, are developing into a tech hub, but there's more work to do. I ask for the opportunity to show you that free market solutions work and create more prosperity for all. I believe in local control of education, lower energy costs, and affordable health care. The way we get this is by giving you more choices through competition. After all, we're not all the same, and we shouldn't be treated as though we are. We all know that competition drives down costs. Let's call this the opposite of Obamacare, where all our premiums are rising. Like more than 60% of Granite Staters, I support marijuana reform. I also believe in criminal justice reform, including ending the war on drugs, ending policing for profit, and treating drug users with compassion as patients, not criminals. I stand for government accountability and transparency, and I will publicize every vote I make. We have come to rely on government for too much. Instead, we should be building community support for the things we want by using persuasion and discussion on a local level, rather than writing new laws that constrain everyone. I have an A rating from the NRA. I am endorsed by the New Hampshire Liberty Alliance and the Marijuana Policy Project, and I'm also endorsed by Goffstown State Representative John Burt. You can learn more about me and my positions at carla4nhsenate.com. That's Carla with the number 4, nhsenate.com. I hope you'll support me and my fellow Republicans down the ticket on November 8th. Your vote will allow me to represent you, the smallest minority, by implementing the solutions that will build a better future for all Granite Staters, young and old. As the saying goes, a rising tide lifts all boats. I look forward to seeing you at the polls on November 8th. Peace out.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that video that Carla made, and Carla did have to skip out to an important meeting tonight. She's, in the full campaign mode. She wants to make sure she can get up to Concord to help me, and I hope with your vote, she can get up there, because, usually, especially in Goffstown, Carla should do really well. There's a couple districts in Manchester that she'll do well, but then there's a couple that, it's going to be nip and tuck. I know a couple times Lou barely won. Remember when Joe Kelly Lavasser ran against him? It was like 140 votes or 47 votes. It was close. So that's what I'm hoping, that Carla can gain those 147 votes and get up to Concord to help me. But her video was great. I really enjoyed watching it. And now that Carla's gone, what I wanted to mention was I do have the Goffstown ballot. And whoever else watches this, I'm going to start at the top ticket, so that way if you're, your ballot looks a little different when you get to the lower seats, like where I'm running. But let me start off with U.S. President. Of course, if you've watched any of my shows in the past, I am 100% behind Trump. Oh, you know what I should have done? I'll bring it in next time, my next show, even though the election will be over by then. WBUR out of Boston talked to me and 3 other people. It's on my Facebook if you want to go find it, the interview. And they said 4 Trump supporters. Well, a couple of the supporters said they're voting against Hillary. Well, I'm telling you right now, I'm not voting against Hillary. I don't like any of her policies. She scares me to death with the Second Amendment. I'm voting for Trump because I like him. Now, did I vote for Cruz? Yeah, I like him. But there were several of them I liked. Trump won the primary. He's going to be the best president that we have in the next 4 to 8 years, and he's going to pick pro-Second Amendment Supreme Court justices. And like I said in the past, Donald Trump personally told me that. I think that's huge. And I take his word on it. So that's why I'm voting for him. And on the ballot, you're going to see America Delta Party. I don't know. I should look that up. And some guy, Rocky, is running. And then Jill Stein and Gary Johnson. And, I hope you're going to vote with me and vote Trump. Now, on governor, we've had this Max Aberson on before, and I like the guy. But Chris Sununu is who I'm voting for. And the reason is because I think he can get into the corner office. In the bills that we send him, I'm pretty sure he's going to, like constitutional carry and a few others. That Colin Van Ostrin, what several people have said is he's pretty dangerous, because he wants that rail. So even though we're not going to benefit from that rail going into Nashua, he's going to spend 38 million, because 13 million is the low side, 38 is allegedly the high side. We don't need that rail. Yeah, I'm sorry. I think Carla even touched base on it. She would like it, but why should the rest of the state pay for this? And that is what that Colin is for. And Chris Sununu has already said that he's going to veto any rail bill that comes forward. So I hope that you'll vote for Chris Sununu, because we really need him up in the corner office. He's a great guy. I know of him. I don't know him personally. But then Kelly Ayotte is for U.S. Senate. We got to make sure she can get back in there. The biggest thing is we need to maintain that majority to make sure who the next Senate president is. Frank Ginta, of course, the negative ads are out there over his finances. You know what? If you want to talk about finances, how about Carol Shea Porter? She has issues. One is not paying her property taxes on her 2 homes in New Hampshire. Oh, but John, she's paid them up to date today. Well, yeah, she did, but she went a year or so without paying them. And there's issues with Carol, on finances. But Frank Ginta is, in my eyes, the best candidate to run out of the slate that we have. We got to get him back there because, bottom line, he is an okay vote. He voted, the way I would have voted several times. The next race, we got to make sure we help him, and he has been on, and that's executive counselor. It's a pretty big district that he's in, and it's Joe Kelly Levasseur. We got to make sure he gets in. Chris Pappas is as dangerous, if not more dangerous, than Colin Van Ostrin. This guy wants to steal every nickel out of your pocket. He does. So here's your right pocket. You've got the Goffstown Selectmen in there grabbing their money. And then in the left pocket is the federal government. Well, there's Chris Pappas. He's coming up, and Colin Van Ostrin, they're coming up seeing if you got any money in your back pockets. So it never ends. Joe Kelly Levasseur, have you ever seen him over in Manchester as an alderman? What I like about Joe is he's not afraid to jump into the fire and say, whoa, hey, nope, not going to happen. And everybody else is like, shh, don't tell the voters. No, I think I will tell the voters. He's that kind of guy, a lot like me. And you guys keep voting for me, and I thank you for that. And I do want to talk about that in a minute. So make sure you vote for Joe Kelly Lavasser. State Senate, again, Carla Gerick. I think she'll do a great job. I like a lot of the things, like with the problems we're having with the court system, on criminal reform. We need some criminal justice reform in this state. The problem is there's an industry built by the state to make sure those prisons are full. We can empty a lot of that prison. Now, if you do something really bad, you know what? You need to go to jail. I don't have a problem with that. And not that jaywalkers go to jail, but it's going to come to that. If they got to fill that jail, they're going to fill it. And, so there's a lot of crimes that are no victims that really need to be looked at. DWI is one. Do I think it's smart to drive drunk? No. Do you need to be punished severely? Yes. But sitting in a jail has proven it's not going to help that person. So let's get that person some, counseling or whatever it's going to be. Punish him another way, like at home with an ankle bracelet or however how you can do it. Or build, another building with non-violent criminals. Have a jail that's just that. That's a little cheaper. So there's other ways of doing that. The next one is vote state representative of Hillsborough District 6, and that's not the one I'm running in, but that's for state representatives. Vote not for more than 5, and there's only 9 names on there. There's 4 Democrats. I know 2 of them. Again, they'll be reaching into your back pocket when everybody else is in your front pocket taking your money. Barbara Griffin is a pretty good vote. I'll be perfectly honest. I'm pretty happy. So she did a really good job up there. Dave Pierce, did okay. Claire Roulard, another one that did really good. Now Nick Zaricki and Rick Christie, they're right along with me. Those are 2 good close friends that will vote like me, and that's why you put me, up there 3 times. But like I said, the others, they had, okay, votes the majority of the time. State Representative, Hillsborough District 39, which represents Goffstown, Ware, and Deering, and it's called a floater seat. John Burt. And then there's this other guy, I really don't know who he is. I call him my opponent. So I hope that you can vote for me and, mark John Burt. In the last 6 years, I have never missed a House vote. I got perfect attendance. I don't expect that from anybody. And I don't know if I can do it for another 2 years. It is extremely hard to do it when you're healthy, which I was. Even though I did have heart surgery once on Monday, June 4th at 8:30 in the morning. I remember that date. And I did tell the surgeon, I said, he asked me, if you don't mind me boring you with this, because I think I've said it before. He said, John, is there anything else? And I said, there is. And this is the surgeon just about to, go up my arm. That's what they did. And they went out and put 2 stents in me. So now I'm just, unbelievable how, great I'm doing. I said, there is. It's my first term. In June, June 4th is when I was. June 6th is our last House session. Is there any way I could go to House on June 6th? No, you're with us for 2 days. I said, well, I got perfect attendance and I don't want to ruin that. He goes, you do know you're going for heart surgery. I said, I know. Can we hurry it up? He looked at me and he did smirk and he pats me and he goes, Mr. Burt, we'll see what we can do. So I'm sitting in my bed the next morning, Tuesday, and the nurse comes in and she's not happy. She comes in and she goes, who do you know? I said, I don't know anybody. And she was like, steam. And I'm like, I don't know anybody. Why? Orders just came from upstairs that if you can go pass a stress test, you get to go home today. And we don't like that. You're supposed to be here for 2 days so we can monitor you. And I said, last Friday, the stress test almost killed me. And she goes, good, then you'll stay with us. I said, no, I'll go. Well, I went down, passed the stress test with my 2 new stents in my heart, and they shipped me home by 12:45, 1 o'clock that day. I was walking out the door, and I'm like, yes. So I made perfect attendance, but I've made perfect attendance every day since then. So I just want to tell you that. And then also the New Hampshire Liberty Alliance, I was the only state rep out of the 400 that got perfect score with them. I was shocked, because when they said that, you got perfect score, I'm like, well, it ain't me. And then they said, will John Burt come up? I'm like, whoa. And you can see the video on my YouTube channel, New Hampshire Politics with John Burt. But enough about me, and I just hope that you will give me one more chance up there. You've always been very good to me, and regardless, who you are, I represent you. And I, last time I did beat Evelyn Connor, a very well-liked lady. She votes complete opposite of mine, of what I vote. I was lucky. I beat her by 1,100 votes. That's a lot. And I asked some of my friends about it. How did that happen? How could I beat a liked person, a sit-in rep, that much? And what they said is that I don't care who I help. I just helped up in Deeren. This real nice family had a small issue. Well, it was really a big issue with their child, and it was with the school. And I took care. I went there. Not that I took care of it, but I stressed my concerns to the superintendent. And not that I could do this for every kid, because it depends on what it is. Local issue to me, local, it needs to stay local. But on the state level, what the issue was, I could help. So what I ended up doing is we talked to the superintendent, and we came to a resolution, and now the issue is gone. And I was happy to help that. And I found out later that, I think the mom is a Democrat. And I go, I don't care. I don't care who she is. I am their representative, and I'm going to do the best job I can. Boomer's Bookstore just up in Ware just put their sign up, and my sign. It's the 4x4. So if you're up there, stop in and say hi to them. And I think they're Democrats. And again, I represent everybody, and I think everybody should do that. Of course, will the majority of the Republicans elect me? Yes. But when I am elected, I'm going to stay true to what I'm supposed to do, and that's to represent people. So if you do have a small problem, give me a holler. If it's a local issue, chances are it's going to be a local issue. I'm not going to get involved because I'm on the state. But if it's a state issue, I want to know. I want to take care of it, because that's my job. Sheriff is James Hardy, is currently Jim Hardy. I may vote for him. This one's a hard one because Richie Merritt, he's running as the independent. He's more of a constitutional, sheriff. But I want to make sure Bill Berry doesn't get in. So, I'm on the fence with that. I just don't know what to do. I really want a constitutional sheriff, because there's a huge difference between a constitutional sheriff and the sheriffs we have today. Some states have constitutional sheriffs, and they go by the Constitution because that's what a sheriff is. The sheriff was predated before the Constitution was written. And so when they wrote the Constitution, they wrote it with the sheriff in mind. And some sheriffs go by it. Sadly, some don't. County Attorney Dennis Hogan, and County Treasurer David Fredette. I know him. He's a pretty good guy. Pamela Coughlin, Register of Deeds. Probate is B.J. Perry. I like B.J. He's a good friend of mine, so I'm going to vote for him. And then County Commissioner, Robert Rowe. He's been a state representative. He's been on the executive council there at the county. He is ready to go, so I'm pretty happy with that. With him running there, I think he'll do a good job. And I'm pretty sure he's going to win because he is very light. But, with your vote, that helps. But again, on the top ticket, Donald Trump, has to win. He really does. if his opponent wins, we're in big trouble. Obamacare stays, expanded Medicaid stays. Donald Trump said he's going to take care of all that. The over-regulations that chased a lot of the businesses out of here. Even, Burt and I talked about it. Who was it? Michael Moore. Is it Michael Moore? I think it was. He said he's going to win. And Michael Moore is about as left comes. I almost think he's worse than Nancy Pelosi. They got to be brother and sister. They got to be really close. So I'm looking at them going. But I agree with him. Donald Trump is going to win. And that's what we got to have. We got to make sure that he gets into into the White House. And I can't wait for all the people, especially the movie stars, Supreme Court Justice Ginsburg, if I say her name right, allegedly, they're all moving to Canada, to other countries, and I'm going to be waving bye. So I can't wait for those movie stars, especially the movie stars. Those left nuts. I'd love to see 3/4 of them go. But I guess there are some movie stars that have come out for Donald Trump, and I'm like, well, that's the end of their acting career, because, of course, the other actors, they'll beat up on them. How dare you go against us? Well, there's a bunch of them that support Donald Trump, so, that's what I am. And especially with the Bloomberg group, they're scary. I'm hearing some gun controls bills have already been introduced at the New Hampshire State House. And I'm like, really? Can we get through the election before they start hammering on us? But no. They got to jump right in on the anti-gun stuff. So, like I said, and I guess if you want to open carry, do it politely, but you can open carry from what I am reading. So make sure you do your own research. Don't take my words, for gospel. But from what I'm hearing, and I called the town clerk, and she said she talked to the moderator and the chief of police, and they said as long as the person's polite and they walk in with an open carry gun, that is the current law, and that's the way it should be. Or there's no law against it. That's what it is. But you do have to have a concealed carry permit to do it, to open carry at a school, at the ballot boxes. So, I'm thinking of doing it myself, and so maybe I'll have some friends join me. Because we got to protect our rights. And that's what I feel with Donald Trump and Chris Sununu, Kelly Ayotte, Frank Ginta. They're going to do that. And make sure you vote for Carla. I really need her. And Joe Kelly Levasseur. These are the two big seats that I really need to make sure that they're in the executive office for Joe Kelly and Calra Gerick for state senate. I really need the help over in the Senate. I got 3-4 senators that really like me and that do a lot for me over there. But I need more. I need the help. So get out and vote. You got to vote. Make sure you get out there. I don't care if you're sick or whatever, if you got a headache or you're just sick of politics. You know what? Next Wednesday, it's going to be over. So get out and vote. It's your right that you have to do, because we need every vote on this ticket. So I want to thank you for joining me today, and make sure you get out and vote. God bless America, and I'll see you next week. Bye now.